Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're part in the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second webinar of the year for Edu Talks, brought to you by the Quality in Education think tank of the International Academy for Quality, or IAQ. My name is Ray Fremista, one of the members of the Quality in Education think tank and the current president of the Philippine Society for Quality. So, firstly, let me provide you a brief introduction of IAQ, or the International Academy for Quality. This academy is an independent, self-supported, nonprofit, non-governmental organization that operates under the stewardship of a collegial assembly of individuals who have been elected by their peers from among the most respected, active, and experienced proponents of quality worldwide. IAQ academicians play a pivotal role in advancing quality globally. They make significant personal contributions and collaborate on team based projects through participation in think tanks, which are specialized groups within the academy. So, among these think tanks, we're proud to spotlight the Quality in Education think tank. This think tank is dedicated to advancing quality in education, one of the critical pillars for societal progress and development. The Quality in Education think tank, alongside with the other think tanks within IAQ, concentrates resources on contemporary applications of quality. These include governance, healthcare, education standards, compliance, apply the statistics, and what have you. It's worth noting that IAQ's effort have not only shaped national and regional quality organizations, but have also supported global initiatives. IAQ has been very instrumental in collaborating with the United Nations in its early endeavors to bring quality to the developing world. So, as we deep dive into today's webinar, exploring the latest insights and advancements in quality within the education sector, let us remember the collective commitment of IAQ and its think tanks to drive positive change worldwide. So, thank you once again for joining as we embark on this journey towards enhancing quality in education. By the way, please feel free to use or to share right here in the chat box any of the questions that you may have, any of your insights, or any of the takeaways while our speaker is delivering the topic that we have for today. So please maximize the chat box in here. Who knows, right? Maybe the your input right here may be a learning to the rest of the participants that we have for today. So I want to welcome you once again to today's Edu Talks webinar session, where we will delve into the fascinating realm of quality intervention in education through learning taxonomies. So, in this session, we will explore the complexities, the challenges, and the way forward for implementing learning taxonomies in educational institutions. Which is, for me, this is one of the interesting topics. Learning taxonomies serve as powerful frameworks that facilitate the organization and categorization of educational objectives, enabling a more systematic approach to curriculum development and instructional design. So, by the end of our session for today, we hope to provide you with the valuable insights and practical guidance on how to harness the power of learning taxonomies to drive quality interventions in education, ultimately fostering student success in an ever evolving educational landscape. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our esteemed speaker for today's webinar, our very own Dr. Kamran Musa. Dr. Kamran is a dynamic professional with a wealth of expertise in quality engineering and management, currently serving as the chief executive of PIQC Institute of Quality. Dr. Kamran wears multiple hats as an experienced researcher and professor, international trainer and consultant, author, and advisor to national institutions. So Dr. Kamran's contributions to the field have been recognized on many occasions. Notably, he was honored with the prestigious Ishikawa Kano Silver Medal Award by the Asian Network for Quality in 2020 and the Asian Productivity Organization Regional Award for 2021. With a rich background spanning industrial, service, and academic sectors, Dr. Kamran is a leading authority in TQM, Lean Six Sigma, ISO 9001, QMS, performance management, statistical process control, and lean management. As an author, Dr. Kamran has penned several acclaimed books, including titles such as Practical Guide to ISO 9000 and Quality Management Practices, showcasing his commitment to knowledge dissemination and excellence in the field. Let's extend a warm welcome to Dr. Kamran as we eagerly participate or anticipate his enriching contribution to our webinar. Dr. Kamran, the floor is now yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you give me the sharing rights, Dr. Ray?
You
Can
should
you
be
give
able to
me?
share now.
Let
Yes, you
me
can share
just.
now, Dr. Kamran.
Okay, yes. Okay, can you see my slides?
I can see it, Dr. Kamran. You're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ray. It's been an honor to be part of this group of IAQ and Quality and Education think tank. Good morning, good evening, everyone who is joining today for this webinar. Today's topic is a little unique with respect to quality professionals. You know, many quality professionals who are working in industries will find it a little different because of the educational context that we are going to cover today. I'm sure this today's session will be valuable for academicians as well as for quality professionals. And I hope that they will be able to take some part of it, if not all, and use it in their practical institutions. So let me just start my agenda of today. I'll be covering in 5 parts: teaching and learning quality, just few fundamental aspects. Then I'll cover and go into the details of learning taxonomies. Then how to align that taxonomies into something called constructive alignments with some examples of few courses. What are the challenges being faced by universities, colleges, or universities, or even teachers in the implementation or upgradation of their curriculum to improve the quality through these taxonomies. And then at the end, I will be covering quality management implementation steps if an institution wants to adopt and upgrade this through some quality management program. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A session, and you may drop your questions in the chat box, so forth. So let me start. I think quality is a very vague terminology for many people, although it's used on the day-to-day basis. The first part of the development of any human being is the family itself, parents, institution at home. Maybe that is 4 to 6 years up to that time. Then the child may go to the school and may cover the 12 years universally in different parts of the world. And some quality aspects are introduced and some not. And then after that, the students go to universities. If not all, many of them go to universities. They may cover the bachelor's or master's or PhD program. And at the end of this school journey, they get into the society. They link themselves with the employers and so forth. So there are certain requirements of the society, certain requirement of the employers, and there are certain expectations that the society expects from educated graduates. And also the employers, they expect certain requirements. And I think based on the requirement, they declare them whether it's a quality graduate or not. So the quality aspect which was covered in the family cannot be ignored. And that is one of the fundamental aspects where the institution itself is the family itself. The second are few quality attributes are added to the students at the school level, then at the university level, and ultimately the overall quality is developed in the professional coming out of the university and so forth. So one important aspect is the difference between competencies and qualifications, and basically qualified graduates, there's a lot of debates on this thing, but qualified graduates are basically considered as people only having certain level of knowledge and may not be sufficient skills or other things. On the other side, competent persons are those having, in addition to the knowledge, the skills, the relevant attitude, and the experience. So it is because of these things, the graduates or the students are able to apply their knowledge in the practical world. The question of quality arises when the requirements of the society or the requirements of the employers are not fulfilled. And most of the time, it is because of the skills, because of the attitudes and experience and so forth. So it's the application versus acquisition of knowledge. Most of the examination systems that we face in our universities are based on the acquisition of knowledge. That means how much knowledge the student has gained, and the examinations are based on that. Another important terminology is outcome versus output of universities or classes. Output is basically the degrees and the qualified graduates. But the outcome is the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes. In other words, the capability of the students to be able to apply the knowledge. So outcome is very important, and it's important to measure, to design, develop, deliver, and measure the outcomes of learning, the learning outcomes, of at the school level or at the university level, whatever it is. So an exams of students checking their knowledge or application of knowledge, we have to check whether our examination system, what is it doing? Is it checking what knowledge we have delivered to the students, or it is checking what knowledge the students which we have delivered to the students can apply in the real world, or what attitudes or behaviors have been developed in the students? Most of the time, this is the weak area because of this, the quality aspect or the quality issues arises. So the question is, does exam grades reflect students' quality or capabilities? Is this performance indicator the true reflector of qualification or competence of graduate? I leave that question to you, and we'll be covering a lot of this. To answer this question, we'll be covering a lot of material. But the problem with the graduates and students is when they get A's and B's, when students are appreciated on good grades, when they are promoted to the next classes, but they have actually not gained the required level of competencies, skills, and attitude, and they have just acquired the knowledge. Based on this thing, a lot of problem occurs. A lot of inputs is given to the students, but what is the outcome? If the outcome is little understanding, little skills, little ability to apply, little or no change in the behavior, which is the most neglected part of while addressing the quality. When there are these things are little, we normally say the students or the employers or the society or the customers usually say these students are incompetent, and just based of the knowledge, they do not consider them competent enough to start the job. So this situation is generally considered as illusion of competence. That means the students, although getting A grades and B grades in their transcripts and not getting the job because of number of interviews given to the employers, they get into something called illusion of competence. They think they are competent, but just based on the knowledge, they are not considered competent by the employer or even by the society. An important saying is that highly qualified does not mean high quality. And that is because of the same reason. that the required level of experience or attitude or behaviors or skills which are required in addition to the knowledge are basically adds quality into the graduates. At this point, although there are many aspects of bringing outcome and related to the curriculum design, related to teaching methodologies, related to many other aspects of the management system or leaderships of the organization, I would like to only cover today in today's sessions, basically few taxonomies which will help teachers and institutions and even students to understand basically the learning levels and how to deal with the learning levels, whether you are delivering learning, whether the students are learning or not, that is what we have to look into it. And today I will be discussing a few taxonomies. Primarily, the most popular one is usually Bloom's taxonomy with 3 domains, which I'll be discussing: solo taxonomy and Kirkpatrick model of assessments and so forth. As we go along, I will be introducing these things and then discussing the complexities and how to implement these things. So basically, there are 3 learning domains. Learning taxonomy, Bloom's is the name of a person and very popular, this theory got. Basically, there are 3 aspects to learning outcome. According to this Bloom's taxonomy, one is the knowledge domain, one is skill domains, and one is called or values domain. Values domains is been named as affective domain, the psychological changes in the students or the behavior of the student, that is affective domain. Psychomotor domain is the skill aspects of the students, and cognitive domain is the knowledge, learning knowledge and so forth. So I'll be discussing each one of this in a little detail. The cognitive domain basically covers 6 levels in order of difficulties of knowledge. Whether it is in the medicine or engineering or business management or psychology or whatever the subject may be, or the social sciences and so forth. The first or the lowest level of learning is being classified as the knowledge, where you just remember the concepts, remember the terminologies and the basic facts. The second higher level is comprehension, where that means the logical understanding of the concept. The third level is the ability to apply the knowledge, which is application level. The fourth level is analyzing or drawing connection among the ideas or looking into the root causes and the historical phenomena like critical success factors and failures and so forth. Synthesis is creating the new topics or creativity based on the learning which you have done and applying to some new situation. That is the ability. That ability of learning is called synthesis. And then evaluation, justifications or decision making or comparisons of different similar concepts. We'll go into the detail later on, but at this moment, I'm just classifying and giving you the classifications of these taxonomies. Whereas the affective domain is considered, affective domain involves emotional responses, attitudes, and values, and basically, the worth the student is giving to the knowledge that he or she is learning. It involves emotional aspects and maybe behavioral change at times. So the first level is receiving some student is just listening, that is basically receiving. Responding, reacting, and active participation. So it's the responsibility of the teacher as well to make sure the affective domains are, covered in their lectures as well. We see many motivational speakers, they are very good in affective domains. People after some time indulge into the concept and they believe in those things which they are saying. So valuing is when the student recognizes the worth, and believe in the things that been given to them or given to these students. Then organizing, integrating, and prioritizing the values, comparing with their own existing concepts and value systems, and then organizing and giving this new value system part of their whole value systems. And then characterizing is making part of the behavior or changing the behavior, or part of the character is become, and they believe in it and they follow it, and they give this value to this concept. And it's not just in the religious domain, it's in the science or management, whether you are in human resource, for example, 3-degree appraisal systems, they believe in it, they believe that it is worthwhile, for example, and so forth. The third is psychomotor domain. Again, there are 5 levels in order of difficulty as the maturity gets into it. Psychomotor domain focuses on manual or physical skills, like learning Microsoft Excel, like the ability to write papers, manuscripts in the journals, the being able to write in the newspaper or magazines and so forth, being able to do the surgery in medicines, being able to diagnose effectively and so forth. So psychomotor domain is not just the mental ability of the students, but also with the practical use of the practical hands and skills with it. So there are also 5 levels of psychomotor domain. The perception is the sensory cues guide motor activity. That means you just feel something. Set mean you are able to do all the requirements before you do any activity, readiness to act, including mental, physical, or emotional readiness. So something, for a Microsoft, for example, how to set up the Microsoft and making it ready to be able to do something, or before a surgery, being able to know what things are required to do this surgery, so forth. Guided response, then imitations and practice of simple tasks, some mentor guides how to do it, and the students follow the instruction. That is the level 3 guided response. The mechanism is improved and more confident performance of skills, where high accuracy level is achieved in doing thing, and basically without guidance, the student is able to do something. And then the complex overt response, automatic, skilled, and efficient, it becomes a habit of the student or person. So although these looks very simple, but I think in order to design them, a lot of effort is required, a lot of many supporting activities are required. So as I just said, these levels, the knowledge level is basically the information level, the comprehension level, application level, analysis level, basically synthesis level, and evaluation level. So the question in the exams related to these would be, for example, for the level 1 question will be, what is ISO 9000? What is TQM? What is gravity? What is mitochondria in biology? So the main thing is, what is this? Explain this. What is this? Define this. This sort of questions are related to level 1. Level 2 questions are basically related to comprehension and logical. And one of the important question is why. Why ISO 9000 is required. Why mitochondria in a cell in biology, control many aspects of the human cell and so forth. So why it triggers the student into the domain of logic. Logic basically means reasoning. The third level is, in the practical situation where this knowledge has to be applied, is the student able to practice that thing? Is the student able to apply that knowledge in the real world, or in the problem that he or she is facing related to that subject matter? The analysis level is basically research level or inquiry. For example, a level 3 question could be, for example, given to the students, how will you apply ISO 9000 in a food company if you are hired as a quality manager, or as a supply chain manager, or as an HR manager, or as an engineer, if you are, working in an industry, how will you apply this concept? In mathematics, for example, we have studied trigonometry, we have studied integration, differential equations, all these things, But if you ask the student, where will you apply in the real world? Very few will be able to apply, give this reply. If you ask, for example, many students, where is, why integration and differential equation and these mathematical terms, why these are required in a practical world or in an engineering problem solving, very few are able to answer those. And going to the level 4, basically, level of learning, higher level of learning is where, if you ask the question like, what are the critical success factors of ISO 9000 implementation or ISO 21000 implementation or total quality management implementation in organization? Are the student able to share, do the research of the past? Analysis is always about the past, learning from the past, and also analyzing, meaning joining different parts of the subjects and looking as a whole, that is basically analysis. Synthesis is creativity of the students based on the learning of the earlier 4 levels. The student is able to generate a new knowledge or apply the knowledge in a totally new scenario, which the student may not have learned. That is the level of synthesis, and that is creativity. And the last one is judgment. If I ask you, which one of the 2 hospital is better, or what is the which quality management system of hospital A versus hospital B is better, the judgment, the ability to judge, that is basically the judgment. So, to become teachers in many countries, in many institutions, just level 1 or 2 are sufficient, and they just, based on even level 1, they start teaching, and as a result, they teach, what they have learned. Without going into the practical world, they are not able to apply or teach students the skills or the knowledge of application or share the experience or analysis of the phenomena. And that creates a problem in students because they just go through the knowledge and then they just take the examination of the knowledge level. And the result, even though A grade, would not mean anything because the level of implementation would be very small. So knowledge level is just like a parrot, and just memorizing the definitions and so forth. And synthesis level is the creativity, at the highest level and so forth. These Bloom's taxonomy, just for those academicians who are actually into it, there was a revised version where the level 5th and 6th was changed, the synthesis level in the revised version became, after some time, some people use it and they make it as a level 5, and creativity is the highest level of learning. So I think creativity is one of the most important and high level of learning, if that is the outcome of teaching of any teacher and so forth. On the other side, affective domain, as I said, has 5 level. The lowest level is when a teacher talks, the student listen. And the teacher just talks and the student just listen. That is basically called a passive mode, without ensuring, without triggering the students. The second higher level is when you're teaching something, the students, because you trigger the students. The student asks questions, they respond to your whatever you are saying. And that is basically the active mode of learning. That is the starting point where, the knowledge gets into it, because without motivation and without the emotional attachment to the subject, you can't make any student learn, except to the lowest level of cognitive learning. The third level is when the students start believing it and giving value, attach importance, worth to the information gained. So once they believe into it, and one of the important things, for example, rather than, just teaching biology, the teacher takes them to the tree outside in the garden. They cut the tree. They show what is inside, the tree. They show when the student gets attached to the real world, their belief system, start strengthening. So valuing is linked with the way we teach. And unless there is a proof of something that we are showing to the students, there is very little, probability the students will give value to whatever we are teaching. The fourth level is organizing, accept different viewpoints. For example, even say in the case of religion, you give, when even though you are related to one religion, you get not just giving example of one religion, the student goes into comparing with the other viewpoints, where the positive and negative, and then they organize the thought and accept what is the right thing for him or for his profession and so forth. And at the end, they characterize, they accept that thing and they characterize, they think the ethical aspects, many ethical aspects, we need students to characterize this. We want them to conduct to behave, on the code of conduct when they enter into any corporate world. So although these are not shown on the transcript of any students, but the employer tried to judge this by putting a complete panel of interviewers, including HR people, try to judge what is the emotional stability of the student. What are the students' value systems, how truthful they are, how fair they are, and so forth. And what are the characteristics of value systems, whether they will cheat or not, whether they will follow the times or not, and so forth. These are all related to the affective domain. We can't leave it that this subject will be taught or this aspect will be addressed in the corporate world after going from the university. Starting from the home institution, from the school and universities, we all have to link together in developing the characters of the students in such a manner. Let me show you one example from one of the school, which is known as SPS, Swat Public School in Swat, Pakistan. They have this little, they call it honor shop, displayed at various places of the school. They have rubber, they have sharpener, they have all the, and one of this compartment there is money, and nobody is looking. The student comes, they put the money is written on the, on labeled on each item. They put the money, they take the item, and at the end of the day, the school measure, the money, and then they find out how ethical the students are. So it's not just a classroom activity which will develop these ethical aspects. We have to practice many things, and these practice will build the value system in the students. And this, for example, this ethical subject, no matter how much you teach, you have to display, you have to engage students in the environment in which he or she is questioned, in the real world, to practice ethics and so forth. Similarly, in the same school, some of the other value system, for example, every day they raise national flags to show the nationalism aspect. Then they have one of the few schools that I've seen, they have code of ethics on the entrance, at the entrance, the students know their code of ethics. What are the code of ethics of students, There is, in order to be part of a good society members, they teach them many societal things. For example, fire brigade, these people come from this department every month. They teach students how to practice this if they are engaged anywhere with the fire. Also, look at this. This is their sports system. They take students in the northern areas of Pakistan. They want to teach them to love the nature and to teach them the leadership skills. So for 15 or 20 days, they take students to the northern areas, just to build love with the nature, and they do all these exercises there. And that is part of their, the curriculum or extracurriculum activities to build these, aspects in the students. Then every morning, in the morning, they have an assembly, and they teach for 10 or 15 minutes, they teach them. And also, whenever there is earthquakes somewhere in the country, a few years back, there was an earthquake in the northern area. A lot of damages were done. They arranged teams of students and teachers to go there for a week. Each group used to go there, and they want to teach them. They have a liability to the society, and it's the responsibility of these students to act and deliver to the society. And in this way, it becomes a very strong member of the society. They also do a lot of walks around the city, for example, for cleanliness, for environment, for green, to protect the greenery of the city and so forth. These students march across the city and tell everyone, to follow the nature, not to damage the nature and so forth, things like that. They also have a clinic, every day by randomness, they select students and they have to give blood in the society. One of the problem in the area is thalassemia. So students are told that it is their responsibility to also donate blood, in the society, and it's a free service they provide for the vicinity and so forth. So this is the affective domain, some of the examples by which we create value systems, values of nationalism, values of ethics, and so forth in the students, and they cannot be just made in the classroom by giving mere lectures and so forth. This is the same honor shop at the high school, senior schools, students and so forth. Now, the third taxonomy in the Bloom's, the third domain is psychomotor domain, and that relates to the skills. As I said earlier, I showed you imitation. The experts do something like a doctor is or a consultant is doing some exercise, surgery exercise in the hospital, and the students just imitate. The second level is manipulation, action under the direction or guidance of a mentor. Then the student do something and the mentor corrects until they go to the point of accuracy when they will work without the mentor. That is the level 3, and that is called precision. Actions are almost perfect, and that's where we leave the students to practice. And there, for example, skills like I said, using the software applications, and using many, mathematical, tools and techniques and so forth. Similarly, there is articulation. Articulation is multiple skills with harmony among them. So not just having one skill. If you're doing surgery, you also have to know sterilization. You also have to know the setting up of the operation theater and so forth. You also have to know the quality system of the operation room and so forth. That level is the level 4 called articulation. And then naturalization. When working with precision becomes the habit of the person. That is the 5th level, and the actions with high performance levels become second nature. So many topics require, even for example, English as a second language, requires many skills. Many countries are not able to speak second language very effectively. There are countries where they are teaching second language very effectively. Language teaching, language speaking and writing, articles and so forth is a skill, not just the knowledge, So it's not just the games where the skills are there. There are many aspects, doing the research, for example, requires skills and so forth. So these are basically the skill levels. So to show you another school called Modern Age School that is in the northern area called Abbottabad, Pakistan. What they do is they have a unique activity they do. They started something called Students Quality Circle. They make this quality system and quality circle. Quality circle is a very popular tool in Japan for quality management and in many countries, in the Asia and so forth. Basically it taught at the corporate level. But what they have done from class grade 4 to class 12, they started teaching the students as an extra curriculum activity how to solve problems of quality which they are facing. They started, and their 70 institution they covered, schools, institution. They taught their teachers, they made coordinators and so forth, and they started working on them. And every year they hold annual Students Quality Circle Convention. And the mission is, their objective is to produce quality-minded citizens so that they not only in their social life, but in their all professional lives, they have a mindset of quality. And they have annual conventions where students participate and so forth. These are some of the pictures of this, for example, Students Quality Circle. They present, and even they teach them software like Minitab, to use in their problem solving and problems of their schools or their parents or their homes. They work together in teams, they make teams, they teach them leadership skills, they teach them tools and techniques, statistical techniques, which are usually used in companies like Toyota and Honda. Even in our country, in many countries, these plants, they use these quality circles and they use many statistical techniques. So the basic statistical techniques, they teach them and they ask them to use the data to solve these problems. So in this way, the skills of problem solving also becomes part of the habits and so forth. So this is as far as the Bloom's taxonomy is concerned. The second major learning taxonomy is solo taxonomy. Although it's not very popular, but very valuable taxonomy. It's called structure of observed learning outcomes. The purpose is to measure the complexity of students' understanding of the subject. Now, the Bloom's taxonomy is usually used in most of the time in making the students' learning outcomes and objectives most of the time. Here in solo taxonomy, they basically used how many the subjects are covered in the students. Pre-structure mean student has acquired unconnected information. If the student doesn't understand the basic concept, is the level called pre-structural. Unistructure means the student understand only one relevant aspect. For example, what is the use of electricity? What is the purpose of gravity? For example, and they can only answer or give answer to the one aspect only and nothing else. The multi-structure is when the students have multiple usages and they know where it is used. Where is ISO 9000, for example, used? What is ISO 9000? And if the students only says, I can only apply in one, type of organization, that is unistructural. When it is multi-structural, it means in the services sector, in manufacturing sector, also they can apply or they can use this thing. And the relational is the student links and integrates several parts of the task to form the whole, which is understood in terms of its implication. So as a system, wherever that knowledge is used, what are the system around that knowledge domain? That is relational. They integrate the idea, So there are various types of electricities coming from solar, coming from hydel, coming from other aspects, and the students are able to answer and relate what is the usage and meaning of each other and where they can be used. That is relational concept. And the extended abstracts, just like synthesis in Bloom's taxonomy, extended abstract, the student makes connection within the topic and possibly beyond the topic into higher order thinking in other domains. And they are able to apply the knowledge, in something new aspects and create something new based on this knowledge. So these are the different stages of solo taxonomy. Pre-structural means I'm not sure, for example, the student is not able to answer what it is. That is basically pre-structural level. The unistructural is I have one idea about this subject, Multi-structural mean I have several ideas about this subject. Similarly, the relational level means I can link many ideas together, and the extended abstract mean I can look at these ideas and to be able to use, for example, another. For example, if we teach students trigonometry very effectively and we use method, give good concepts and practical application, and tell them about the synthesis of aspect, they can design a bicycle based on just the knowledge of circles and triangles in the trigonometry, in the mathematics. And they can design a new machine, for example, based on trigonometry and so forth. They can design a house or so forth, and they can work on this thing just because they have good application knowledge and synthesis knowledge. They are creative and so forth. Now, the labels which are given to these, sometime if you go to Google, you'll see these labels, basically used for pre-structural, just a circle, unistructural, one eye, multi-structural, three eyes, relational mean joining together all three, and extended abstract means something based on these three and something new. So these, maybe you will see something, and you have seen something like this. So a question, for example, what do you understand by the term respiration? The student response could be different. For the first level, they may say, I don't know, I don't understand, I haven't understood it. The second level, they just answer the question, respiration mean it release energy. The relational means it is a chemical reaction that releases energy, it uses oxygen and glucose and releases carbon dioxide. So now they are relating few different things, but these are 2-3 different things they are explaining. Now, relation them, looking as a whole, what this thing is, their answer can be a little broader, like it's a reaction that takes place in all body cells. Products of digestion, such as glucose, are transported to cells by the blood and reacted with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, which is breathed out. Energy is released, and that is what is, as a whole, respiration phenomena is. And in extended one, they may come out with something new. For example, it's a reaction that takes place in all body cells. Products of digestion, such as glucose, as we explained in the level 4, are transported to the cell by blood and reacted with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, which is breathed out via the lungs using gas exchange and ventilation. As energy is released, respiration is an example of an exothermic reaction. The energy that is released can then be used by the body for the growth of the new cell, repair of tissues, and keeping warm. So something new based on the relation. So something like this, is basically in the solo taxonomy level 5. The third is not basically a taxonomy, but a model of assessment, which is basically used in training systems, in training organizations, not just the academic one. That is called Kirkpatrick model, training effectiveness measurement. They say how to assess and what are the level of assessment. Most of the time, we in the academics, we just give exams to the students in seminars or in this training programs. We just give students, take student feedbacks, and we think this is sufficient, but it is not. The lowest level of assessment is getting the students' feedback responses, or the participants or training participants' feedback. Whether they like the training or not, this is their reaction. This is usually by the training feedback forms and so forth. The learning is, did the participants learn from this training? We usually ask them or give them exam or whatever it is. But after this, there is a third level of basically assessment, that is transfer. Did they use this knowledge in their practical work, in their workplace? Did they use the training in their work life? Did they change their behavior, which was required to be changed as a result of this training? That is the transfer, whether they are using this or not. So this assessment is after maybe 2 months or 3 months of the training and so forth. And then, and this can be a feedback from the supervisor of that participant. And the fourth level is looking at the result of the workplace where they use that thing. What are the effects of this training on the organization and so forth? So this is Kirkpatrick model for the training effectiveness. Now, to show this, for example, I'm showing you, for example, a training program which is conducted, here again, which is called the Training Impact in one of the universities also, UMT. They've been using this thing. For example, this is for a leadership course. They take students to maybe, I think, 10 days or, a various number of days, 10 or 12 or 15 days. They take it to the isolated areas, and then they give them tasks to do as a teams, and then they train and develop them for the leadership which they have taught them earlier in the class. So there is assessor, there is also a mentor. looking at the performance of each participants. They look and they give them tasks, they look their leadership styles, and whether they, how much risk they are calculating, how much teamwork they are using, how much they are protecting from the threat of the environments, and how much SOPs, standard operating procedures, they are following. This is the leadership training, picture, some of the pictures in one of the training programs of this organization, and it's been also been used in one or two universities around. And similarly, some other courses are being there as well. So you can see these pictures. These are the practical aspects of, training. So you can see this from the skill point of view, psychomotor domain. You can also see from the, extended in the solo taxonomy, and you can also see is in the Kirkpatrick model, how they are assessed and so forth. This is from that training impact organization's training program. So as I just said, there are different levels of questions teachers may ask. For a knowledge level, the questions may start from define, list, memorize, repeat. Comprehension may be classified, describe, explain, recognize. Application level questions may start from verbs, something like solve, use, demonstrate, interpret. Analysis question may start from compare, contrast, examine, question, and so forth. Synthesis may be, and so forth. Evaluation can be the way they are written, So although this is not strictly from a practical experiences, sometime, these are not very carefully done by the teachers. So just having the words does not, is not sufficient, I'll show you now some of the exam papers to show you, to clarify this point. For example, this is one of the paper from one of the country here, and that is chemistry. And look at the chemistry paper. I'll show you all these questions and look at the types of question and decide yourself what is the level of Bloom's taxonomy these questions belong. For example, define radical, define modern periodic law, define double, triple covalent bond, explain gases, define solutions, and so forth. So this is school level chemistry, define, describe, which is level 1. And maybe these two questions are of level 2. So after going and checking this paper, I can say that there are 85% of the questions are from level 1 and 15% questions are from level 2. So now the question is, if a student gets A grade in this paper, they will get, he or she will get into an illusion. Maybe the student is very smart, very capable. But the problem is the question has not been covered from the higher cognitive level. The questions are from the low level of cognitive level. So their expertise is only in memorization and level 1 and 15% from level 2. Similarly, this is one of the textbook I have seen in the region, gross pathology. This is taught in the medical MBBS medical education. This is third-year paper, and look at the question again. Name the parasites. This is microbiology parasitology paper, theory paper. Name the parasites, briefly describe the pathogens, enumerate organisms, define hypersensitivity, enumerate clinical disorder, enumerate this, define this, briefly describe this. So again, once again, 90% level question 1 and 10% from level 2 of Bloom's taxonomy. Maybe one question from level 2. Again, another paper. I have so many papers, don't want to go through it. But this is a geography paper. Again, I've found 90% level 1 questions, 10% level 2. This is another paper, and this was termed as applied psychology, whereas I found 100% of the questions are from level 1, while they are claiming for, applied, which means level 3 of Bloom's taxonomy is there. Similarly, this is a science book in one of the countries. And there are various activities given in the science book, and I checked with the schools and they say that they have not covered, the practical exercises. Rather than practical drills, they just, give them lectures in the class about those practical things. As a result, there is no effective domain, no value system. For example, transpiration. You can see on the left side, the teacher asked them to write, this is an exam question. What is transpiration? Explain it with experiments. This is the question. And the students' bracket started from there, from the left side, and the bracket ended there, and the student has memorized this thing. And rather than understanding what is, from practically seeing what is transpiration, which is, emission of vapors from the plants, the student won't believe this thing. Even if they read this thing, they won't believe it. That means the effective domain will not be achieved. And look at the assessment system of in some of the countries, the questions are given from the practical sense. This is the trigonometry question, but showing with the practical sense. For example, look at these questions. These questions are from trigonometry questions, but showing the real life phenomena. The students may like it, students will believe into it, but students will be able to understand while going around, in their life, they would understand, or they will be able to use this knowledge in their practical. So by asking practical question with the practical pictures and the practical phenomena, you bring the students, you add their effective domain, you add their application knowledge and so forth considerably. On the other side, I'll show you also some of the poor textbooks, or examination system, how they will look at this. They are teaching them how to use. I was just showing. Okay, sorry everyone, something happened, I don't know. Anyway, I was showing you some of these exam questions, which were, made by institutions in a practical manner, something like this. So these are the ones which gives practical understanding. And so far, these practical understanding also creates motivation and interest in students. They can calculate the height of the building when they're standing far away, and so forth. Whereas some of the books only deals with the formulas and all that. And therefore, then the problem is the students lose all their interest. These are some of the books where practical things are there, but students are not shown and taken into practically to these aspects. Just 1 second. Okay. Similarly, there are topics sometimes covered like measurement uncertainty, and the books are written in such a manner that the students cannot understand these things. This is, for example, total quality management textbook used in many countries. But then there are a lot of data is not authentic. A lot of questions, are basically only to the level 1 and so forth. Now, another subject which is called metacognition is learning to learn. Recognition, understanding, and control of one's own thinking and learning process. So it's important for the teachers and for the students to get into metacognition or learning and identify what is their learning goals and so forth, so that they can improve upon it. And in this manner, in this manner, it's important for the teachers to an institution to set their educational goals or classroom goals. The problem is, sometimes I've seen some companies using Bloom's taxonomy. What they develop for the students, they try to develop goals which are higher cognitive level, but the problem is with the teachers that they have not coming from the corporate sector, or their practicality aspect or skill level is weak, and that's why they are not able to deliver that goal, and they won't be unless there's strong, basically, program of teachers training and so forth. So there are many subjects which we need to understand, and to give, develop teachers like their subject knowledge. Of course, we'd hire them, but then their teaching skills, having PhD in chemistry, PhD in physics or language, something does not mean, you know, uh, they are good in teaching methods, how to develop exams and so forth. That training system in many schools and universities, I find them quite weaker. And then there is third domain of student teachers development is the management leadership skills, their emotional intelligence and so forth. So what's the capabilities or quality of the graduate from the Bloom taxonomy point of view is basically the three levels of domains and building students in the all three domains and so forth. Now, this second part covered basically the taxonomies, which I covered, although it's a little lengthy subject, but I tried to summarize in the keywords and so forth. But having this taxonomy is just the first step of building up or upgrading the curriculum and so forth. The second part is constructive alignments. Now, what does constructive alignments mean? The constructive alignment is a principle is an educational approach that ensure all aspects of the course are aligned together. Now, what does alignment means? It means aligning three aspects: students' learning outcomes, the goals, the SLO, student learning outcomes, which are defined for each course. Then our teaching methods will address those goals or not. So if we have decided to teach physics in basically level 3 or level 4, is the teaching method relevant to that level 4 or level 3? And the third aspect is the assessment. Are we checking or examining, as I showed you many exam papers, are our exam system checking the same level for which we develop the learning goals and so forth? These are basically the three aspects which must be aligned together. So how will this work? The students' SLO development is a process. We have to evaluate, review, and regularly revise the SLOs, the student learning outcomes for each course, the development of curriculum, and so forth. Then in the teaching, we have to develop the lesson plans in our schools or universities, evaluate, review, audit, and regularly revise lesson plans. And on the ground teaching, whatever we are teaching, how we are teaching, and whether it covers the student learning outcome. The third is content validity and reliability of the exam system. Validity means, does it cover all the aspects of the exam? And reliability means, does it really measure what we want the exam system to measure? And then the exam management and post-exam feedback and so forth. In all these things, as we said, we have program mission statements, we have learning statements, we have targets, we have teaching methods and assessment. Most of the time, the problem is that we do develop the program mission statements, the learning outcome statements, the target levels, but the teaching methods and assessments are in many cases not aligned, and that creates the quality problem in our courses that we are teaching. And that is because each level of Bloom's level requires and may need different learning activities. At times, it is lecturing, at times it is discussion, at times it is simulation, role plays, case studies, practice by doing, flow charting, research, engaging students in the research and so forth. So it depends on the goal that we are setting for each subject that we are teaching. This, for example, if we have all these 6 levels of Bloom taxonomy, let's look at course number 1. We develop the learning outcome, the learning goals at the level 5, that is synthesis level. But the teacher teach that person at the level 2, and the exam is given, or the exam is at the level 2, and teacher is teaching just for the purpose of rote teaching or just memorization and so forth. This is unaligned course. Or in course number 2, if the learning outcome is level 3 and the assessment is level 1, again, we have a problem and so forth. So the aligned course is when the SLO teaching and the assessments are all relevant to the same goal and they measure the same thing. And that is basically the alignment of SLOs. Let's look at one of the example of the university course, that is basically human resource management, for example. Let's look at it. Due to time, I will be just shortening it, say just covering 1 or 2 level. The knowledge level is basically as I said, the recall, whether they can recall the basic HR terminologies and concept. The practical example in HR class can be students memorize definitions of recruitment, onboarding, performance management, and so forth. The examples of student learning outcome, if we are making it for the knowledge level, it will look something like this. Students will be able to define key HR terms and concept. Example of teaching method is just lecturing. Example of assessment will be a written test or MCQs and so forth. That will be the knowledge level. But if we make a level 2 class or make the aim for level 2, the example of student learning outcome can be student will be able to explain how each HR function supports organizational objectives. The examples of teaching method can be small group discussion, followed by class-wide sharing to deepen comprehension. And the example of assessment can be written assignments, presentations, and so forth. And if we cover this in the application mode will be, for example, apply key concept is application of knowledge. So in HR, maybe it's about the topic is interview of employees. So example of learning outcome will be students will demonstrate basic HR tasks such as conducting an interview. An example of teaching method will be simulations and role playing in conducting, interviews. And the example of assessment will be practical assessments such as conducting real or simulated interviews and then, assessing and so forth in the analysis and in the synthesis domain or the level as well. Each method will require different, teaching methods and assessment. And similarly, in affective domain also, when we say alignment, it means we must also define the student's learning outcome, of each affective domain, the example of teaching method for that affective domain, and the example of assessment. And similarly, for those of you who are interested, my slides will be given to you later on, and the recording will be given so you can see these, due to shortage of time, I'm not going into the details of this, but in psychomotor also, we need to see if they are aligned. That means the example of student learning outcome, example of teaching method, example of assessment, and so forth are aligned. However, there are many challenges when we try to do these things and upgrade the cognitive levels, skill levels, and affective domain level. We face many challenges. I've been to many universities and schools, working with them to upgrade their learning outcomes for their students. There are few challenges you will face is complexity and understanding of the topic itself, although it's not that simple for the teachers to understand. And the nature of difficulty, educators may find Bloom's or Solo taxonomy theoretical framework complex, leading to superficial or incorrect application. Example can be an instructor might only use Bloom taxonomy to create tests, but doesn't align teaching methods with each cognitive level. And the recommendation would be to provide comprehensive training, create a mentorship system where experienced instructors and those who are knowledgeable in the Bloom's taxonomy guide the teachers. Another one could be alignment and assessment of learning outcomes. I've discussed that in detail. The teachers and the examiners may not, align these courses. So we have to develop assessments that match learning outcomes, use mix of formative and summative assessments. That means exams during teaching and after the end of the class, to include practical learning and so forth. The third challenge could be staff training and resistance. Resistance to change among faculty who are accustomed to traditional teaching methods can hinder implementation. A senior faculty member resists, for example, adopting Bloom taxonomy, arguing that existing methods are sufficient. Another example is faculty feeling that restructuring courses to incorporate Bloom taxonomy would require too much energy and effort and so forth. So recommendation would be initiate a quality improvement program or change management strategies that include demonstrating beneficial benefits of new methods, by pilot projects and giving some success stories in the organizations. There could be resource intensity. The school may not be providing sufficient resources in training and development of teachers and so forth. So budgeting will be required and a plan for incremental implementation rather than in too small time. They can develop it maybe over a period of 6 months or 1 year and so forth. Scalability, applying Bloom taxonomy across all the departments of the university at one time will be very challenging. So developing a role model and applying in one, two department and then progressively scaling it to other departments. Students' engagement and feedback, if that is not taken into consideration, the student may not accept this easily as well. So we have to onboard students also on learning taxonomies, and subjects like learning to learn types of trainings are required for the students themselves. And lastly, very briefly, is about quality management program. If the university has a quality department, they can create a complete program for improving the learning outcome by developing the objective by setting the goals, exclusively building strategies for upgrading and using Bloom taxonomy and upgrading the cognitive level and skill levels in all the courses. And then a project management team who look after this program, formation of quality circle or process improvement teams in different departments, to look on what are the issues of quality of understanding in students and so forth. Then training and development of faculty, then basically application of project management tools, like planning tools, collaboration tool, Gantt charts and all that, how many people have done, how many courses have been done, measuring the progress through KPIs, checking actually how much learning has been done, then feedback mechanism is developed. Management reviews are held regularly, recognition and rewards for the best learning outcomes are given to the departments and faculties, documentation and reporting will be required, and sustainability and continuous improvement requires it for long term and so forth. So I think these will definitely, if we develop the goals, to improve learning outcomes, of course, one of the things will be use of these technologies of taxonomies and using a quality project management and quality management program to implement this and extend it maybe over a year or so in revising all this thing. And then measuring through various dashboards, or KPIs. In our case, we use student learning experiences. We watch them in different courses. We look at the quality. We look at the online courses also, student motivation level, and sound quality and complaints and all these things, through our dashboards. Some dashboards are made in Excel and some are made in Power BI, Power Business Intelligence, and so forth. In Power BI, there is also, you can project also future also. They can predict also some of the things, how it will look like in the future. So what we have covered today, in a short, I'm sorry, it took some little time. For students, what does quality means to students and teacher? For students, quality of their learning is quality of their future. And for teachers, quality of their teaching is quality of our next generation. We require leadership for excellence. We require real intention to start this program. teamwork, structured program, and so forth, in order to achieve that goal. It's a long-term activity, sounds simple in on slides and lecturing, but quite difficult in implementation. However, the last thing is, if you continue to do, it's an important saying, if you continue to do what you are doing, you will continue to get what you are getting. So a change is paramount, and so forth. And in many of our discussions, we just discuss the things that which we can't change. I think we should focus on the things which we can change and then work upon it. Dr. Ray, I'm sorry, it's a little, maybe a late or not, but there's still 10 minutes left for the question and answer. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Wow, that's an amazing presentation, Dr. Kamran. I want to read some of the comments right here from Muhammad Akram. He mentioned, "Thank you very much, Sir Kamran, for this wonderful lecture." From Asgar, the application of three learning domains in teaching is need of the hour. One cannot stick into focus the cognitive domains for a holistic personality development of students. It's essential to give same amount of weightage to affective and psychomotor domain. There's a question in here from Barry in terms of the thank you. Send me the links for the recording and documentation, sir. It will be an honor to have these slides. Are we going to share the slides, Dr. Kamran, to the participants?
Sure. We
Okay,
will be you, and you can share with all the participants.
absolutely. So we'll share the slides presented by Dr. Kamran, and also we'll share perhaps the recording. We'll upload it right here in the IAQ YouTube channel. Would that be okay with you, Dr. Kamran?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, that would be perfect. And please also accomplish this participants experience survey that will only take for less than a minute of your time to so that we can also look at how we can improve in our succeeding sessions. I can see in here a lot of the thank yous from our participants. Oh, there's a question in here, Dr. Kamra, from Adim.
Yeah.
How can this change can be done? Um, how can the change be done? Most likely, that's the question. I don't know what is the specific change in here.
Yeah, I think, it's very important. One of the aspect is when we develop our plan or intention to do something, we need to develop a structure in the organization. Without structure, the change won't come. So all those like-minded people who, appreciate this program should come together and develop a team to work together, and then selecting a little part of the organization where you want to bring change, and then, develop a role model there. Only lecturing and, these things will not have an impact unless you develop in your university or school a small section, with role model and change the curriculum and all that. I have done this exercise with some schools and universities, and I find them that takes about 1 to 2 years, to go through it. For the first 6 months, there are many teething problems. Many people resist to it. But then if you have one section or department or group of teachers, passionate about this thing and working on it, I think everyone will accept it, because on the long run, it's a strong branding and appreciation from students and from the society and from the employers as well.
Thank you so much for that insightful answer, Dr. Kamran. And let me see in here. A lot of thank you, sir. Really an impressive and marvelous learning from you. Indeed, as always. Thank you, Sir Kamran, for wonderful insight in the field of education. Thank you so much, sir. So looks like everyone really learned about this insightful webinar. Thank you so much, Dr. Kamran.
Well, it's been wonderful here sharing these experiences. And I think if there is anyone who require to, go into the detail or want a second opinion on it, my email will be there on my slides. You can always write to me, And whatever possibly we can answer, we will do it in quality. International Academy for Quality, our purpose is to promote quality, across the countries. So I hope best practices or example from one country would definitely help and generate new knowledge and bring harmony among countries as well. So I'm sure this quality is one of the things that we are looking into to create harmony among societies, countries, and so forth. So thank you very much, everyone. And maybe it's too late at night in Philippines, I guess. Here in
It's almost
Pakistan, it is 7:30 here, 7:27
oh,
here.
it's 10:30. It's almost 10:30 p.m. right here. But there's a question coming
Yeah,
from the Philippines, from
yeah.
Dr. Lorena. Dr. Kamran, how do you rate reflective thinking questions?
Can you ask him to explain a little bit what really they mean? Because
Um,
reflective questions, are very important from the students, and I think the teachers have to learn, to see what the students have, really grasped or not that. And I think that engages students. Without
mm,
engagement of students, you can't achieve anything. It is a two-way process, like a handshaking process, learning. It's not a one-way, and reflective questions and reflective students reflection is very important, and assessments and reflections of students actually, and the students, teachers must be trained on understanding and learning, the aspects of how students are giving reflections,
totally. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Kamran. I can see in here like a suggestion from Shazad. We can initiate Kaizen and Gemba walk in schools. I mean, that's a question. Suggestion and a question, most likely.
Yeah. Now this is another Shahzad or whoever is there. You are bringing a very important point. Quality management tools are very scarcely practiced in universities. Although they teach quality management courses, but they do not use quality management tools in their own universities in uh, in many cases, So I would definitely encourage this uh, to use this as a practical course. And the purpose of this session also and webinar, our webinars is to be able to apply this thing in education. I think there has to be a quality department or something, in a universities or a center or nucleus program where continuous quality improvement initiatives are taken. Kaizen, Gemba walk, statistical quality control, dashboards, KPIs, balance scorecards where goals are set. These are the tools, which can enhance the university quality and outcomes very much. I definitely agree. And I think this is one of the tasks of our quality in education think tank and International Academy for Quality, particularly QiETT, to promote this subject in the academia as well. Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Dr. Kamran. Okay, so as we come to an end of today's Edu Talks webinar on quality interventions in education through learning taxonomies, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for your active participation, engagement. We love the questions, we love the insights that you've been sharing right here in the chat box. Throughout our session for today, we've delved into the intricacies of learning taxonomies and their profound impact on education quality and student success. We've explored practical strategies, some of the real world examples, insightful perspectives shared by our esteemed speaker. That's Dr. Kamran. But our journey, as I've heard earlier, doesn't end here. Let us carry forward the knowledge and insights gained from today's
Sure.
session into our respective spheres of influence, whether you're an educator, a student. So Shahzad is one of your students, Dr. Kamran, uh,
Yes.
or you're a researcher, you're a stakeholder in the field of education. Let's continue to really collaborate, innovate, and strive for excellence. A special word of thanks to Dr. Kamran, by the way. So if you have any
Yeah.
of the emojis
Thank you.
that you have in here, please share it right there to Dr. Kamran for his amazing presentation and invaluable contributions to today's discussion. Your expertise, Dr. Kamran, and your passion, it really exudes. We've felt it for the quality in education. You've truly inspired us all.
Thank
As
you
we
very
bid
much.
farewell,
Yeah,
thank you
thank you
so
very
much.
much. And it's been a wonderful evening, and I hope it was a useful one. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye from my side. And from our Dr. Ray is from the Philippines, president of Philippine Quality Society, I guess. Quality Society or Philippine Quality Society, yeah. And they are
Philippines
working
Society for
also,
Quality.
Philippine Society for Quality, you know. He's very actively working in promotion of quality in Philippines, and we have about 20 members, you know, in different countries working. So thank you, everyone. Bye-bye, and have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye, Dr.
Have a
Ray.
great
Thank
night,
you.
everyone. See you
Bye-bye.
next time. See you next quarter. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining
bye-bye.
us. Bye bye.